Okay, hi everybody. Hope you can hear me. Lindy, if you're there and if you're ready to go, we can start.
Fabulous. Well, okay, so let's see where we end up going today. Got a PowerPoint prepared, so we may just end up going along with that, but you never know what the Father's got up his sleeve. Well, I never know what the Father's got up his sleeve. So I'm going to share my screen and we will kick off with that. Okay. Okay, so as we move towards immortality, I'm going to talk about activating the restoration of our health. So Mike talked about the fact that this is a transition season, which is absolutely right. And so that's why whenever I talk or teach on anything, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to show people the two paths, where here's the spiritual side of things, and we're moving forward along this path. But at the same time, what we're doing is we're working with our body to keep our body as well equipped as possible until we transition where our spirit completely where we function completely in that place where our spirit is determining what is happening in our bodies. Okie dokie. So our body's ability to heal is greater than anyone has permitted you to believe. I don't know whose that quote is, but I absolutely love it. And when you just sit in that revelation for a minute, it begins to shift and change things around how you think. Okay, so I want you just for a moment before we go anywhere else, just to listen to that statement and to cognitively come into agreement with it. So what I'm saying to you right now is that despite what anybody has told you, your body's ability to heal is greater than you have been permitted to believe. So I want you just to take that on board right now. I don't know how many people are listening to this session, but statistically, there are a lot of people out there with issues in their bodies. And so what I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting to make an environment where you can position yourself to receive what you need in your body during this session. Now, I know that it's a twofold thing. So, I've activated the angelic realm, that those angels that are assigned to work with me around healing. I want you to activate your angelic realm to minister to you while we're going through this, because your angels are mandated to keep you in health. So just allow them to minister to you as we're going through this. So that actually, Mike talks a lot about the fact that you don't have to be thinking about something to be able to engage with it. You engage your spirit to activate that, and then your brain can go somewhere else, but your spirit is actually still engaging with that realm. And so that's how we get to do lots of things all at the same time. And we get to achieve so much in a day, because it looks like when people look at our lives, it looks like, oh, well, she's just doing this thing over here. But actually, we've trained our spirit to be engaging multidimensionally through the course of the day. And all I'm doing is checking in to those dimensions on a periodic basis, and always engaging my spirit to be releasing the mandate of heaven over my life on a daily basis. Because actually I have long surrendered being in charge of my day and what my day looks like. or what my time looks like, or what I'm going to be doing with my time. I've long surrendered that. So actually, once you've done that, you can then start to live in that place where you're just empowering heaven to use you as the conduit into the earth on a moment-by-moment basis. Okay, so I just want to help you activate that realm for this session right now, because I'm going to talk to you about things that seem to be a cognitive thing, but I want you to be activating the spiritual side of things, to be ministering to you at the same time. Okay, so before I go into the rest of this, I just want to throw one thing out there. During time with the Father one morning, he started to speak to me about the dynamic duo that is frequency and intention. And oh my goodness me, what a dynamic duo that is. I'm going to be talking a lot about the frequency side of things, but actually what we are is our bodies are bioresonant frequency chambers. And we actually have, by our intention, the capacity to create the frequency that we need within our body for healing. However, what I'm going to deliver in most of this session is the practical side of things, okay? But frequency and intention are a very powerful combo. So he took me back to the foundation of the earth and showed me that through frequency and his sound and intention of his heart, all things came into being. Okay, so everything exists because of his frequency and his sound. So frequency has the capacity to regrow organs, teeth, or removed body parts. So what he was showing me was that every type of cell exists in the body. And when we remove an organ or a part of the body, those cells still exist in the body. It's just homeless, if you like. But those cells are still part of us. Because you take a tooth out doesn't mean that there isn't the capacity there to grow a tooth, because there are cells that are specifically that tooth's cells within the body, that when we learn how to activate it, it can grow back. So scientifically, medically, there are examples of organs that have appeared to grow back almost accidentally. But what you will discover is that something triggered the regrowth of that organ. So what we need to do is we need to learn how to engage that capacity, that capability within our own bodies, which will be the transition into immortality. So frequency and intention spark and ignite the stem cells associated with that organ to begin to grow. Okay, so actually when the Father started to talk to me about this, what I realized, I began to see how Jesus did the recreative miracles, because actually he just accelerated that process. So what we've got happening is it's all possible. It's all explainable, although faith requires that it isn't explained to us. But what I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting to just present some information so that you can transition into that place that says, hey, I can have this. Okie dokie. So as we are exposed to new ideas and new concepts that are completely turning everything we know about health and well-being on its head, it creates cognitive dissonance. I know Mike's talked about this, Nancy's talked about this. Well, I've had this whole process apart from in my spiritual walk, in my natural walk too. Our brains want to shut down because we feel that the incoming information is causing a destabilization of our belief system. So that's regardless of whether you're talking about a spiritual concept or a natural concept. So as we go forward with this, give yourself permission to hear things that may have this effect. But to move into longevity, we need to start doing things differently. You know, it's Einstein, he says, it's insanity to do the same things and expect different results. Okay, so we need to be doing things differently. For a long period of time, we've been led to believe that our bodies are a biological system only. Conventional medicine does not recognize the benefits of electricity in the body. In fact, in most instances, we're told there is no relevance of electricity on the body. Interestingly, conventional medicine makes use of EEGs and ECGs. So what are those? So an EEG is a test that detects abnormalities in your brain waves or in the electrical activity of your brain. During the procedure, electrodes consisting of small metal discs with thin wires are pasted onto your scalp. The electrodes detect any tiny electrical charges that result from the activity of your brain cells. So they monitor brain activity with electricity. Interesting. An ECG is a medical test that detects cardiac or heart abnormalities by measuring the electrical activity generated by the heart as it contracts. The machine that records the patient's ECG is called an electrocardiograph. Okay, so here again, you know, electricity is irrelevant until they're wanting to check your heart. And then they use electricity to check the abnormalities in the heart. So this seems incongruent to measure electricity activity to diagnose, but not to include it in treatments. Something else that seems incongruent is the role of sugar in cancer. So mostly cancer patients are told that diet plays no part in cancer. And so there's nothing that you can do within your diet that is going to change the cancer in your body. However, to detect cancer, PET scans are used. And the PET scan can measure blood flow, oxygen use, and how your body uses sugar. So in the PET scan, it uses a molecule that is introduced to the body to see the uptake in cancer. Interesting. The molecule is a glucose molecule, and yet we're told sugar plays no role in the spread of cancer. So the reason I'm making these points is just to point out that some anomalies, just to open the way to begin to look at other possibilities. Okay, so we've been, don't like to use the word programmed, but you know, we've been conditioned, let's use that word. We've been conditioned with lots of information that has been presented, and it's incongruent. So conventional medicine puts no emphasis on gut health. And yet the gut is the digestive engine and the hub for fueling the body. The gut is often clogged and hosting parasites, and by simply clearing them out, health and well-being is improved. So one of the things that we do is muscle test for parasites. Okay, so for the purpose of understanding where we're going in this section, I have called it electric health, just because, you know, it's frequency, it's resonance, it's everything, it's electricity. So let's just call it that. Because we've been conditioned to think of our bodies chemically and mechanically, when we need health intervention, we treat it chemically or mechanically. However, if our heart stops beating, they treat it electrically by jump-starting it with electricity. Interesting. It's accepted that our nervous system is electric. Our body carries an electric charge. Our bones are crystalline structures that make electricity when compressed. So what we can see is we can see pieces of the puzzle, the electric puzzle, but we still see pieces rather than the whole picture. So that's how it is presented to us in the normal route for dealing with health issues. So as we move forward, realizing that we are made up, what we are made up of is energy. It's energy, it's electricity, it's frequency, it's resonance. That's actually what we're made up of. Because we are energy, our system is grounded in electricity. So sounds get translated into electricity going into our minds and our thinking. Everything we are experiencing right now and through our nervous system is electricity. Everything going through our senses is electromagnetic. So what if even our memories are stored in our electromagnetic system? Okay, so how does the human magnetic field work? Every moving electron creates a magnetic field. That's just physics. Your body is full of moving electrons. Your body has a magnetic field. Every cell and organ in your body contributes to that field, especially your heart and your brain. We've seen earlier that your heart and brain have fields strong enough to be measured. If you look at electromagnetic field out in the universe, we can see that the universal electromagnetic field has the ability to store information in the same way that computers store information on magnetic tape. Everything you think, feel, do, say creates an electromagnetic signal and pattern, and it is stored. But how and where is it stored? What if all information ever discovered and any emotion ever felt, any thought, anything felt by anyone is stored in this electromagnetic field and is available to be accessed? Very interesting. So yesterday I was talking about accessing the hidden things. When you bring the spirit realm, when you bring the authority of sonship alongside of accessing this information, not from the tree of knowledge, but from the tree of life, it opens up our capacity to engage with this information. So when I started to, I've been engaging in the spirit realm for years, and it's my, it's my hangout space. It's where I live. It's my focus. I live and breathe and to be in that realm. However, when I started to understand this dynamic of electricity and energy and electromagnetic fields, and let me tell you something, science is nothing I understand. So in order for me to understand this stuff, the Father shows me something in the spirit realm, which I don't understand. And then he shows me something in the scientific realm that bring those two things together. And I go, oh, yes, I get it now. Okay. So I am not scientific in any way. What I'm doing is I'm receiving revelation in the spirit realm and allowing him to show me how that is grounded and outworked in the natural realm, so that I can help people who need to understand in the physical realm these things. So if you think that we know that there are all sorts of breakthroughs that have been made in the last 200 years, and some of them have intentionally been hidden or destroyed or whatever. However, that information exists in the electromagnetic field out there. And so we have the capacity to be able to pull on that information. Okay, so let's just talk about what we're not going to be doing. So what we're not going to be doing is trying to access information that is not part of our mandate. Because there are lots of people out there that are doing that, and that's not a safe place for us to function. We are always going to be accessing everything by sitting in the heart of the Father, in that surrendered position of what is my mandate and my authority. Because we actually do have the authority to pull on stuff that doesn't belong to us, but we're moving into witchcraft. So let's be very careful about how we conduct ourselves, that we are completely surrendered and sitting in the heart of the Father, in that place of intimacy with him, knowing our mandate and our authority to access the information that is out there, that is part of what he has for us to walk in. Okay, so the Earth's magnetic field and the magnetic field of the universe meet. Magnetic fields have no boundaries and they do not stop. They connect, merge, and interact with each other. So your magnetic field interacts with the Earth's and the universe. And so we have access to all stored information. Okay, so this is theoretically and in fact practically, but we're going to do this with the Father's direction. That electromagnetic system is an information field, an enormous universal body of information available to each one of us through our connection. Okay, so when I started to understand about electromagnetic fields and the information stored in electromagnetic fields, it started to also make much more sense of the telepathic communication that is open to us, not in a ungodly way, but in a godly way. So I've got friends across the world that we are choosing to engage telekinesis. We're choosing to engage intuitively with each other on a daily basis, because we're wanting to practice how to communicate with each other. And what we've done is we've given each other complete permission to access our hearts and our lives, so that actually on a daily basis, I can be communicating with them and I can be receiving communication from them. Because how are we going to learn to do this stuff if we don't practice or if we don't press in for it? You know, one of the things I'm very aware of is that God does things sovereignly to show us that we can have it. And what often happens is we sit back and we wait for the sovereign move to make it happen. And he's sitting back to wait to see how long it will take for our hunger to make us go, oh, okay, so I'm not going to wait anymore. I'm just going to step in and start to push in for this thing that you've shown me sovereignly can happen. So I am passionately pursuing these realities that the Father has been teaching me about, showing me about, and encouraging me to open myself up for, so that I can start to engage with him. Okay, so this electromagnetic field also was an explanation to me of how we are quantumly entangled, because it all exists in this electromagnetic field. Okay, so the question is, how do we access and download that information that's stored in the electromagnetic field, which could give us access to all information ever revealed? So I've kind of talked a little bit about that. So when I engage with the electromagnetic fields for information access, my first step is to step into the tree of life and engage from there. Okay, so what I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting to keep out of the tree of knowledge, so that I can engage from the perspective of the tree of life. So I have had to train myself how to not look for explanation first, but seek revelation first, and then let the explanation come. So yesterday, one of the questions that we answered in the question and answer time was about, accessing, being able to hear God's voice and finding information confusing and all of that. And actually, that is part of the process. Part of the process is dismantling our cognitive requirement to understand what's going on. I'm seeing this, it means this is what I'm supposed to do, and yeah, I got it sorted, packed it in a box. Very often, we function from that place where we get the information, we understand it, we process it, we pack it in a box, and that's the end of it. Like, as though that actually has now, we've now acted on that thing. No, we haven't. We've just understood it, processed it, and packed it in a box, and we can explain it to anybody if they ask us. But we're not living it, we're not manifesting it, we're not exploring it, we're not anything. It's just packed in a box somewhere, and we're getting on with our lives. So part of the process of pursuing intimacy, part of my process of pursuing intimacy was, for a very long time, the Father said, I'm not going to show you anything. You're going to feel things. You can come and sit with me, but you're not going to see anything. It's just going to be dark. But you're going to feel loved. And, just come hang out with me. It's not about what you can see or understand, or it's not about that. It's about us building relationship. And it's about me disconnecting your need to be able to understand it, put it all together, explain it, and then pack it in a nice little box we can put on a shelf somewhere, and it actually hasn't changed anything. So, because I've trained myself how not to require an explanation or an understanding, it's easy for me to engage from the tree of life, because I sit in the tree of life and the Father speaks. And I go, okay, so we're going to be doing this and this and this. And I start to make a list, because my walk with the Father is very practical and very kind of hands-on in the earth. This is what we're doing. You're going to be this year, you're going to be launching this program or this program, or whatever it is. And so I just sit with the Father, and I just start to journal what it is that he's asking me to do. Okay, so we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. I don't even get to the stage now where I think, well, how's that going to happen? I'm just like, okay, fine. So we're going to do this. I get up the next morning and he'll say, this is what you're doing today. Now, I remember when we were launching the intuitive frequency and energy practitioner course, you know, I was kind of thinking, hey, you know, I kept reminding him, like, I haven't got any of this material sorted out yet. And I'd have meetings with some of the team here that kind of are holding it and running it, and the various people who are doing different administrative functions in that. And they'd be going, so what about this? And, you know, what's this? What does this look like? And I'm like, I don't know yet. Sorry, no, I can't answer that question yet. And fortunately, you know, most of the team have tracked with me long enough to know that most of the time, I'm not going to get too much answer. As soon as I know the answer, I'll be there. We'll be on it. It'll be happening. But I've learned that the timing of heaven is different to the timing of earth. The timing of heaven is completely different. In the context of there are things that heaven needs us to engage with and do today that may not even be on our radar, because actually we're thinking about something that needs to have an answer or needs to be completed within a 2-month period, and that'll make us feel much more comfortable if it's done. And heaven actually needs something done today that isn't even on our radar yet. But as I sit with the Father, pardon me, in the morning, and he goes, okay, so today we're going to be doing this. And I'm like, okay, I don't even ask anymore. I just go with it, because I know that any engagement from me that isn't a complete place of surrender is actually unbelief. Because what I'm saying to him is, hang on a minute, I need to do that because I don't believe that you've made this the priority that it is for me. But I've learned that when I make my priorities the priorities of heaven, oh my goodness, he takes care of my priorities so swiftly and so quickly and so easily. And remember, my priorities are only things that he's asked me to do anyway. They're not my priorities because I've chosen to do them. They're my priorities because the Father has asked me to make them a priority. So when we start to choose to live and engage from that perspective, everything changes. So when I engage the electromagnetic field for information, and, you know, I like trying different things. So I'm like, okay, so when he started to open up the electromagnetic field concept to me, like, okay, let's do this. This could excite me. No idea what this looks like, no idea how we're going to do this, but Father, I'm going to hold your hand, and you're going to teach me how to access information that is out there. That is part of my mandate. Okay, so one of the other things I want to talk about, so yesterday I shared about some encounters that I've had with Plato, and I shared about a scroll that he shoved into my belly. Okay, so I know that some of what I have access to in the electromagnetic field comes about from that scroll that he shoved into my belly. And so what happens is I will sit and I will engage, and revelation will start to bubble up. So revelation will just appear. I'll just know things that I didn't know before. Now, sometimes that happens when I'm sitting and engaging and looking to expand my consciousness around what the Father has been teaching me, not from an information point, but from a strategic point. Because when I access information, he gives me information at a top level, and then he then drills down into the detail on a day-by-day basis, which is kind of different to the way we'd like it. We'd like to kind of see the nuts and bolts of how it's all going. We'd like to see the nuts and bolts and then see up to the strategic level. The Father does it differently. He shows you the mandate, the blueprint, then he drills down on a day-by-day level. Okay, so when we will engage from the tree of life, it is a place of safety, a place where all information is filtered through the lens of heaven. Okay, so that's another thing I want to talk about. The information that exists in the electromagnetic field has come from all sorts of sources and could have all sorts of stuff around it. So let's talk about the gateways. This is a really easy one for me to talk about because we do work around gateway stuff, and if you Google chakras, we call them gateways. They're just energy. They're just energy entry points into the body. There's a whole lot of information out there. But of course, a lot of that information has come from different spiritualities that have different agendas around them. And so when you are looking to engage the truth, or as Nancy calls it, the righteous real, you're needing to see it filtered through the lens of heaven. So the gateway stuff that we do is very different to anything that you'll find out there, because the Father's been teaching us about how the gateways interact and the gateway order, so that it isn't just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's a completely different way in which the energy, the heart gateway is actually the number 1 gateway, and it's the one in the middle, and then there's 3 on the top and 3 on the bottom, but it all goes through the heart gateway. And so when we do gateway work, it's different because we're pursuing everything from the revelation and the lens of heaven. Okay, so if we can agree that much of what we're made up of is electricity, then electric health means using voltage to change our well-being. And that if we do use voltage to change our well-being, it will be effective. Okay, so there's a treatment called frequency-specific microcurrent. Now, we don't use this treatment, but I have done a lot of reading up around this protocol because the Father told me to. But in understanding how they use this protocol in health and well-being has really helped me understand how to take that concept and utilize it as the Father shows me. So, which is kind of, that is the hallmark of who we are. The Father will show us a revelation of something that exists, and then he'll say, okay, so this is the concept. Now, this is how you take this and make this really client specific. Okay, so FSM, frequency specific microcurrent, has been around for 20 years, and those practicing this modality, this was pioneered in between 2000 and 2003 in Australia at the University of Sydney. So what FSM does is use frequencies to affect the brain, the stress centers, and the emotions. This is done by changing cell signaling with frequency. Okay, so if you understand that what FSM has proved to be truth is that you can take a specific frequency and you can deliver that frequency through a microcurrent, and what that will do is it will change the cell signaling because of that frequency. Okay. So our body as an electromagnetic system has cells that function as semiconductor networks that convey current, charge, and information. How does that work? Frequencies change membrane protein configuration and cell function electromagnetic with a specific frequency signal. Okay, so I'm explaining this because it's so fundamental in understanding how we can take this understanding and using our intention and using other modalities. So I've been walking through an issue for the last 7 weeks, which has been a fascinating journey, and it's been to do with my rib cage. So it started by me dislocating a rib. Now, let me tell you something. It was not an enjoyable experience. And it took about 3 weeks for some level of normality to come back and for the pain to subside. And I knew that the Father was saying, I'm going to teach you. And then what started to happen as it started to just move from one side of the body to the other side, to the other side, to the other side. So I'm like, okay, this is a lesson. And Father, I'm just going to hold your hand and you're going to show me what it is that I need to be doing in this lesson, what I need to be learning. So I woke up one morning and the Father said, tuning fork. You need to use a tuning fork on your rib cage. So I came into the Wellness Hub and I knew who I was going to ask. That we've got an amazing team of practitioners here who are very intuitive and just follow Holy Spirit's lead. So I asked the lovely Georgie if she would use a tuning fork on me. And so she did, and she took the tuning fork and she activated the tuning fork and she was placing it on my body. And I could feel it happening. And then she took it and she placed it on the top of my shoulder. Oh my goodness me, I felt this electric shock go down my one leg, across the floor and up the other leg and then back. And I felt all sorts of things shift through that one act, and the pain lifted. So it lifted for about 2 or 3 days and then it was back again. And so the Father's been teaching me more and more and more and more around this. And I've been using tuning forks. And I've been using tuning forks around specific frequencies into the painful area, because it is a way of conveying a frequency into a membrane, into the cell membrane, to change the cell functioning, the cell signaling. So the interesting thing, even about FSM, I think I'll get to that in a minute. No, let me go there. The interesting thing about FSM is that what they say is that the level of success that they have will depend on the client's buy-in, intention around that. So in order for there to be permanent change, there needs to be a level of buy-in from the client. Okay, so correct frequencies can cause instantaneous changes, and those changes can become permanent when the person's attitude, intention, nutrition, and mechanics support the change. Okay. So we also create a stable state within our bodies with meditation and gratitude. Energy balancing strategies like toxic energy release, stress reduction, and supplements. So that's how we begin to create a stable balance within our bodies. So with electric health, we can take care of this system we call our body and make sure that this system is running optimally. It's making sure that there is no noise in the signal. And it's making sure there is no resistance to the flow of current. So, ever wondered why tuning forks are so helpful in health management? It's really interesting because I put this PowerPoint together before I even had this experience a week ago with the tuning forks. Because they can clear out the noise in the signal or resistance to the flow of current. Okay, so apart from, as well as, so tuning forks can deliver a frequency, but tuning forks can also pull out a frequency or clear out a frequency from our magnetic, our electromagnetic field. So when I'm doing gateway work, I will often utilize a tuning fork because a tuning fork is really good. A tuning fork is a really easy way to hear a blockage in a gateway because you can actually hear the vibration of the tuning fork change when you move it over the gateway or when you move it over various parts of the body. Using the tuning fork in kind of like a as a detection tool, once you're used to what you're listening for, you can hear noise or resistance to the flow. So holding a tuning fork on a particular spot or gateway can relax the whole electrical system, which will begin to clear tension, inflammation, and more. So FSM is one of the key things that they use FSM for, is inflammation. And it's, yeah, okay, I'm not going to go there. Okay, so we can raise the strength of the current flowing through our bodies when we get rid of noise or signal resistance. So try using a tuning fork on a painful area of your body and see what happens. So this is a real suggestion. It is going to help. It is definitely going to help. One of the other ways in which we have used tuning forks in the past is through vibrational foot soaks. When we do vibrational foot soaks, the practitioners will use tuning forks, and often they will use tuning forks on the pressure points of the feet. And we had one client who had a huge amount of issues in her body. And when the practitioner used the tuning fork, she realized that there was a problem with the pancreas. And so we could actually then use the electronic gem therapy machine to target that specific issue. And within 24 hours, all her symptoms had gone. So they're so, I'm really starting to get excited about how a very simple little apparatus that looks like this can do so much in the body when we follow Holy Spirit's lead. Okay, so when we do use the tuning fork, let's follow your intuition and not your head. Okay, so it's so important that we understand that each one of us is uniquely crafted, uniquely made. And so there can't be a one size fits all. The Father never created a one size fits all solution ever. And he did that to make sure that we don't factor him out of the equation. He made it a requirement that for 100% success rate, we needed to nuzzle in close to him, so that from that place of intimacy, where we have our head on his breast and he can whisper into our ear the keys and the strategies on a moment by moment basis, because that's where we get the 100% success rate, when we're hearing the whisper of heaven for the solution of the problem that you're seeking to resolve. So your body will use your intuition to speak to you. But as your head is usually full of good ideas from things you've learned, not necessarily helpful at the issue at hand, it's often difficult for us to actually go with our intuition, because our head will tell us something different. I know I share this, and I think I shared the story last time. One of the things that the electronic gem therapy machine does is something called a assemblage point realignment. Okay, I don't even really know what that means. And when we were getting the training, and listen, because it sounded like a lot of mumbo jumbo, and I was like, oh, we're not going to be using that, so I'm not going to listen. Then the father said to me one morning, "You're going to start doing assemblage point realignments," and he started to talk to me about expand on what he'd been showing me about the heart gateway, and that it's the three gateways that go up and the three gateways that go down, but everything's from the heart. And so what he started to show me around the assemblage point realignment is that energy starts that gateway becomes so congested with muck that it doesn't have a clear in and out access for energy in the way that it needs to keep our body well configured, energetically configured. So anyway, that was great. Okay, we're going to do that. So when we had a client come in and say, he wants to have this, first of all, I did a consultation with this guy, and he got his pendulum out, and he was testing every answer that I gave him back, which was interesting. Never had that experience before. And then he said, right, I'd like an assemblage point realignment. So my first thing was, oh, Jesus, help. Anyway, I said to him, look, you've got some issues with your back. Let's pop you on the beamer. I'll give you a free session on the beamer, because this was my way of buying time so I could try and figure out what I was going to do. So I popped him on the beamer, and then I went running for the book, and I started to scan this book frantically. And I heard the father say, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Don't you know this client wants an assemblage point realignment?" He said, "And what do you think the book's going to tell you?" It's like, oh yeah, the book's going to tell me a load of mumbo jumbo. Okay, so I'm going to listen to you then. And literally, that's how it worked. I took him in. I had no idea what I was going to do. The father told me, he said to me, "So are you going to check my assemblage point?" The father said, "Yes." Tell him yes. I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "How are you going to do that?" Out my mouth came, "I'm going to use your body as an energy field." Oh, okay. So basically, that's what I did. I followed his lead, shoved him on the bed, got the machine out, positioned the machine where Holy Spirit told me, and he was happy as Larry. Felt huge relief after that session. So why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because where we're going is living in the tree of life. And in the tree of life makes access of all sorts of things that are in the earth, but it brings that added benefit of knowing exactly what is specific for each client that walks through the door. So come with me on a journey for a moment. Imagine you are primarily an energy being. Goodness me, I can see lots of typos in this, so I do apologize. So your body is an energy system. If we can see ourselves not as unidimensional, but multidimensional, it will help us understand health and healing. So we often think of ourselves as multidimensional in the spirit realm, but we don't think of ourselves as multidimensional physically. We are multidimensional physical beings. So health is a state of balance of dynamic energy flow. Once the flow is disturbed, an imbalance occurs and disease follows. Every cell in the body requires energy for life, and keeping the balance right will keep you healthy. Okay, so I've been doing a lot of reading and research around cancer due to my journey. It really interests me to find out as much as I can about this subject. Obviously, I take everything that I discover, that I read, and I take it to the Father and I say, what do you think about this? Because it's written in a book, it doesn't make it true. So one train of thought is that cancer is actually not a disease as such, but rather the body accumulating out of control cells, all in one place in a tumor. So it's a really interesting concept. And so one of the things I also just want us to dispense with is either or, okay? Because we think it's either right or it's wrong. Well, often you can have 10 things that all are right in a given situation. Okay, so what I'm not trying to say is, I'm not trying to say dispense of everything you know about cancer. What I'm trying to say is incorporate this as something else that you know about cancer. So imagine that it is a wake-up call. I'm convinced that it is a wake-up call, not because of this, but because of experiences that I've had in the spirit realm. But I think I touched on this yesterday. It so answers so many things. It answers so many things, like the fact that most of us have cancer cells in our body. You know, it's just a known fact. When people come in and we do biofeedbacks on them, most people will have a cancer result come up in the biofeedback. Now, we don't advertise that. We don't give those results to the clients. We use those results to talk with the client around what we found and how to navigate a way forward. But if you've only got one cancer result coming up in your biofeedback, I'm not going to take much notice of that, because everyone's got some cancer cells in their body. So what that tells you is that there are cells in your body that are out of control cells. Now, for a lot of people, what happens is through the process of everyday life, their immune system is able to deal with that. Okay. What we do need to do when our immune system now becomes not able to deal with that is we need to radically change our way of living. So it's a wake-up call that says you need to do something different here. So this would imply that cancer is more of a metabolic disease than a genetic disease. It's your immune system turning on itself. Okay, so yeah, I'm not going to go there. Okay, which would in turn suggest that cancer is caused by mitochondrial malfunctioning. So I'm not medical. But I hold the Father's hand in all of this to get layman's interpretation at what I'm delivering, so that I can deliver. I know that. So the Father's been speaking to me about mitochondrial activity and how to maximize mitochondrial functioning within the body. One of the things I love about the scalar therapy is that it activates and energizes mitochondrial functioning. So remember, this thing that we call a body is created to look after itself and heal itself and sort itself out. And so in how we move forward into health and wellness, what we're doing is we're giving our body everything it needs to be able to fulfill that automatic function. Okay, so if you look at this as a possible explanation, it would certainly explain why so many cancers return after chemo, because the underlying issues have not been dealt with. The cancer cells in the tumor may have been killed, but the reason the cancer started in the first place has not been addressed. Okay, it's really interesting because when I look at both of my cancer journeys, both times there was huge trauma just before, 6 months before. I had huge trauma. Something happened. And so I know that my journeys were the Father's training for this, the stuff that I'm doing now. But I'm also going back now and I'm saying to the Father, okay, if I haven't learned how to properly process trauma so that it isn't landing in my body, I need to learn how to do that, because I can't be doing the same thing and expecting different results. I need to go back and look at how I process trauma. And so I'm now guarding, not in a negative way, I'm guarding myself around looking at how I process those things on a daily basis so that I can keep working around what I need to change to make sure that my body functions properly. So this is not only relevant to cancer, but in fact to all general health. Improving the immune system is a way to health and well-being. So the immune system is what the Father built in our bodies as a repair mechanism. Chemical intervention distorts the balance of energy in the immune system. So by changing diet, we're able to energize the mitochondria and build the immune system, but we can also do this through various things. So high doses of vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, magnesium, vitamin B complex. There's a whole lot of things that we can do. Okay, so lifestyle changes that will energize the mitochondria and rebuild the immune system are getting enough sleep and rest, having less stress, reducing cortisol. Well, I mean, those are the two in the same. Having less stress is the one thing, but if you're moving from a high stress environment and you're actively choosing to focus on de-stressing your lifestyle so that for health improvement, what you need to realize is that there will still be a huge amount of cortisol pumping through your body from your previous high stress environment, and you're going to need to reduce that. Breathing exercises and meditation and intermittent fasting. Okay, so imagine that your body is a battery that needs charging. At 100% charge, you're fully healthy. At 0, you're dead. What many people do with their electric health is to discharge more than they recharge. So living in that place of surrender to the Father, it's a really good way of making sure you keep healthy, because you're not going to be doing things from the wrong motives, because that's where we fall down when we're trying to do what the Father's asking us to do, but we're also trying to do what we think we should be doing. And that's where it all falls apart, because if you're actually just focusing on what the Father's asking you to do, that's going to fill your time. You're not going to have time to do all the things you think you should do. And if you're still wanting to focus on that, what it's going to do, it's going to deplete your energy. So if our output is more than our input, it will eventually result in serious health issues. Okay, so I'm going to touch briefly on grounding, because this is something everyone can do from home very easily. It's called grounding or earthing. Grounding or earthing is living in contact with the Earth's natural surface. Whilst we live on Earth, most of us don't touch the Earth anymore. We wear shoes all the time. We walk on pavements. We don't often get to that place where we can actually get our feet on the ground. So there are constantly negative electrons flowing from the Earth's surface. Within our body are positively charged free radicals, which lead to inflammation, pain, and lack of healing. When we have contact with the Earth's surface, the negative electrons are absorbed into our body and neutralize the positive free radicals, which then reduces inflammation. Okay, so this is energy. This is energy in its simplicity. I remember when I was a kid, I don't think I owned a pair of shoes till I went to school. I grew up in South Africa, and I was out on the beach all day, or, in the bush, or and barefoot was the way to go. I remember the trauma of putting shoes on. I felt my feet felt claustrophobic, and actually I was just so incredibly healthy, because actually I was constantly getting all the vitamin G. My daughter laughs at me because I talk to her. I say, "Have you had your vitamin G today?" And I'm talking about grounding. She says, "Mother, you can't just make up new vitamins to suit yourself." I say, "Yes, I can." Okay, so grounding is said to have the following health benefits: a rapid reduction of inflammation, eliminates chronic pain, dynamic blood flow improvement. So improve the blood, oxygen and nutrition get there. It's a natural healing process. Reduces stress, increased energy, improved sleep. Okay, so I'm going to just pop down there because I want to show you some pictures. Okay, so the Earth itself is the original anti-inflammatory. Okay, so the planet itself is the biggest electron donor on the planet. We've talked about electrons in our body, the need for electrons. Imagine a mighty army of free electrons galloping up through your body from the Earth, mopping up inflammation and free radicals. Okay, so let me tell you something. I actually do this. I actually sit with my feet on the ground in my grounding time that I allocate. I try and get out on a regular basis. I'm not always successful, but I try and get out on a regular basis. But when I do get out and I am grounding, I actually I engage my imagination, engage my intention to absorb, but I also engage my imagination, and I imagine this army of free electrons galloping up through my body, mopping up inflammation. Okay, I want to show you some pictures. So here are some scans that were taken, some imaging that was taken. So this is before grounding, and the red bits are heavy inflammation. And after 2 hours after grounding, the same thing was taken, and that's what we can see. And then here, before grounding, and 2 hours after grounding. So this is something that's really easy for us to do as an intentional health option to keep healthy. So how do we do this? Sitting on a chair with your feet planted on the ground, wading or swimming in the ocean. Salt water is more conductive than fresh water, so I try and get down to the sea. I love the sea. I try and get down to the sea. So you're looking for 30 to 40 minutes a day would be ideal, but don't do it for less than 30 to 40 minutes at a time in order to see results. Obviously, if you've got huge health issues, take a towel and lie yourself down on the ground, or lie yourself down on the ground without any fabric if you can, but get as much as your body on the ground and just enjoy the peace and the tranquility. Okay, so the next thing I want to look at, which excites me, is breathing. So when he started to talk to me about how breathing is connected to electric health, I got very excited because it answered so many questions in my head around breathing, around how. So one of the things I know is that when we have trauma, it changes our breathing. So if you think about it, when you're about to go into a traumatic situation, you stop breathing, you hold your breath. If you have been through any significant traumas, what will have happened is it will have changed your breathing process. So I find that I sigh a lot, and I know that actually I'm sighing a lot because my body is pulling in more oxygen than it needs. But it's also telling me that I haven't been breathing properly. Now, sometimes I just sigh because I'm releasing. It's an intentional thing where because I use that as an intentional release of things, because I'm scanning my body on a regular basis, and I'm using that sighing to release what I'm finding through my scan. I'm connecting with something. I'm finding a pocket of unhealthy. I'm just going to say I'm finding a dark pocket, because that's what happens for me, because I've kind of got used to it now. I scan my body, I find the dark pocket, and I release it. So breathing is a really massive tool that I use for health maintenance and health restoring. Taking it to a spiritual level, what I like to do is I like to climb into the Father's lungs, and I like to breathe from there, because I can almost feel the changing in my cells when I'm breathing from the Father's lungs. It's just a whole other dynamic. But first of all, I'm going to talk about breathing, just normal breathing exercises. So oxygen molecule has 4 free electrons. When we breathe, those electrons adhere to the hemoglobin in our blood. The blood is the carrier system in the body, and the blood carries the electrons to the cells that are deficient. The deficient cells draw the electrons into the cell, and the cell becomes recharged. Isn't that just incredible? It's incredible just as a statement that that's the process that takes place. Now, interestingly, we can go for weeks without food. We can go for a good few days without liquid, but we can only go minutes without breathing. That is this breathing thing that the Father is releasing into the earth It's popping up everywhere. It's a revelation that's popping up everywhere because there's breathing techniques coming from all over the place, because it is a key for this season, breathing. It seems that the primary source of our life is coming from oxygen, and trauma is one of the things that causes us to change our breathing pattern. This will seriously damage our health. If you are someone who suddenly keeps taking breaths, it's a sign that your breathing pattern has been changed. So you want to go back and look at that. You want to start to focus on your breathing. You want to start to practice breathing exercises on a daily basis, and hold the Father's hand through that process. Because what you're wanting to do is you're not just wanting to relearn how to breathe. What you're wanting to do is you're wanting to find out what made you change your breathing patterns. Because otherwise, every time that thing happens, you're going to change your breathing patterns and you have to go back and relearn. So find out what it was that made you change your breathing patterns and then work on that so that you can restore your healthy breathing patterns as well as learning new ways of breathing techniques. So chemically, we think of pH. When my pH is low, I am acidic. So I think eat more green veg. This is definitely an option as juice transfers electricity, but there is also another option. Electrically, we think of voltage. So instead of thinking pH, think voltage. No, that's not true. In addition, instead of only thinking pH, in addition to thinking pH, think voltage. So actually what I'm saying is do both. Because when my voltage is low, what do? I plug myself in to recharge. How do I do this? I need to get enough sleep, because it's a very easy way in which we run our battery down. We need to get grounded. We need to do breath work. Drink pure water. So water has 10 electrons per molecule. Drink pure water. Make time for you. It is really important for us to have time for us. It is a fundamental need that we need to start to put ourselves first, not in a selfish way, but in a self-care way. We have to be engaging with what is right for us and how to take care of ourselves. And a lot of that will come from disengaging with doing things that are not your job anymore. So using a tuning fork to introduce electric energy into your body. So I've just started playing with tuning forks because the more that I play with them, I've been taking tuning forks into my encounters with the Father and letting him teach me about how they work and how they introduce electric energy into the body. Because, it always starts with me. My walk is always about me first. Teach me, then outwork it. I'm going to outwork it now, and then I'm going to teach you, because that's how he's made me to be. So I'm playing with tuning forks. I'm taking them into the spirit realm, and I'm looking to see what is changing. So I'll just also add this little story in. So one of the things that the thing that I played yesterday through one of the activations is something called a tongue drum. And okay, so here we go, crystal bowls. This is actually a tongue drum. Okay, so before we go into the activation, I'm just going to stop the screen sharing. so that I can. Okay, so this is a tongue drum. And you play it with. Now, what I love about this is that all of these actually work together. So you don't actually have to be musical in order to do this. I'm not musical in any way. Okay, so woke up one morning and the Father started to talk to me about this as a vibrational sound therapy tool. So I came in and the Father told me that he was going to open up an opportunity for me to do a vibrational sound therapy on a particular person. And so it all worked out and I stepped into that. So what I did was I used the drum and I placed it on her body as the Holy Spirit was leading me, and I played the drum. I had a crystal bowl at the top of her head, I had a crystal bowl at the bottom of her head, and I was using the tongue drum and the crystal bowls to create resonance and frequency, and I was just following the lead of the Holy Spirit. As I was doing this, I saw all of these masks dropping from her face. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And the Father said, don't look beyond that. Like, okay, won't look beyond that. Anyway, to cut a long story short, what happened was she ended up having a phenomenal recalibration, a deliverance session, all sorts of things took place in 40 minutes on the bed with resonance and frequency. So the reason why I'm telling you this is because we have so little understanding of how important frequency, electricity, all of that is in the context of the body. And they are phenomenal tools for us to be able to use for healing and restoration within our body. Okay, so what I'm wanting to do now is I'm wanting to do an activation where I'm going to invite us to step into the Father's lungs and start to breathe in a completely new way. In a completely new way. I'm going to invite you to engage your intention as part of the process. I'm going to invite you to give him permission to open up anything he wants to do. So what we're doing now is we're engaging our bodies, because we're stepping into his lungs and we're engaging our bodies, but we're also engaging our spirits so that he can actually show us, take us, do whatever it is he wants to do with us. Okay, so if you want to just close your eyes, just bring yourself into that place of peace. And now you're going to choose to step into the Father's lungs. So the first time I did this was where he invited me to step in. And the first time I did this, I actually could feel his lung chamber around me. Now, sometimes when he invites me into his lungs, he invites me into his lungs to position myself to blow from his lungs. And when I blow from his lungs, things shift and change. So I have seen opposition in my life completely disappear from one encounter in his lungs, where he has released his authority with mine to blow that opposition out the way. And that may be what he's inviting you to do today. But I'm going to focus on the restoration in the body from breathing in whilst in the Father's lungs. So what I want you to do is just engage your intention and open up everything about who you are to whatever the Father has up his sleeve. And from that place, I want you to start to draw deep breaths. And we're going to start by drawing a deep breath and holding for 3. And then exhaling for 3. And then we're going to go to 4. And then we're going to go to 5. And then we're going to go back to 3. And we're going to go back to 4. And we're going to go back to 5. And then I'm going to leave you to go with how it's working for you. So we're going to breathe in 1, 2, 3. We're going to hold. We're going to release 1, 2, 3. Now you're going to do it for the count of 4 and the count of 5. So you're going to breathe in, hold, out. You're going to breathe in 5. Hold, out. Now you're just going to sit with him and breathe as he dictates. Recognize that as you're breathing in from his lungs, your whole body is being saturated with every electronic charge that it needs. Your body is being recalibrated. And as you breathe out all the unhelpful stuff, whatever that looks like. Breathe it out. Let it go. Okay, I know that some of you are still getting what you need, but I did just want to open it up for questions if there are any questions. So if you have any questions, just raise your hand, put them in the chat, whatever you fancy, and I'll address them. Otherwise, I'm just going to leave you to continue in this place with him. Okay, Kelly.
So you said that there's a process that you can regrow stuff that's not in you. Like that my thyroid was taken out when I was 30 and my optic nerve was taken out by immune system. So what's the process of getting them back?
Okay, so I'm glad you asked. I had my gallbladder taken out, and so I'm busy working on that. Okay, so what I'm doing is I am engaging my intention on a daily basis. I'm recognizing that those cells exist in my body. I'm engaging with those cells. I am calling recreative growth into those cells. I'm activating those cells and I'm loving those cells. Now, I don't know how long it's going to take, but I have, excuse me if this is graphic, but I have regular colonics done as part of my healthcare process now. And the lady said to me, she said, I cannot believe how your body responds. You would never know that you don't have a gallbladder. So I know something's happening. But other than actually going to the hospital and having a scan to see what's happening, and, you know, I'd have to pay for that privately because no doctor's going to pay for you to have a scan just to see if your gallbladder is growing back. They're going to think you're barking mad. But in the meantime, I'm just carrying on and doing that, knowing that at some point the Lord will confirm to me. I did think a couple of days ago, I thought, oh, I've got a missing tooth. I wonder if I should grow that one back. And then I thought, no, I'm going to wait for the father's instruction, because it's just so much easier when he is saying, this is what I want you to do. So, yeah. Does that help you, Kelly?
Are you using Spooky or any of the machines?
I'm not using Spooky or any of the machines for that particular thing. No. Yeah, no. So one of the things I think probably could be helpful in the process is the scaler. But I'm choosing to do this because I'm wanting to model that we can do this in our body without outside intervention. And I know that we can. Okay. Tony.
All right. Hi. So I'm wondering if maybe you can give me a little bit of insight here. You know, from the time that I was a teenager, I knew that one of my callings in life that the Lord had put there was surrounding healing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had, started learning, back then through the context of the church, lay hands on the sick, they recover. I'm a pastor. And so like I really started to, lean on the voice of the Holy Spirit led, on how to do that. And, like we saw like teeth grow back instantaneously, blind people start to see instantaneous type of things. However, over like the last 2 years or so, when I really started to come in contact with this, I really stepped back from a lot of that, because we would do, healing things once a month, see people receive miracles or whatever, because I wanted to make sure that, that it wasn't like the old way, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But I'm, and hearing this, I'm wondering if, would you say that maybe some of that had to do like with, you know, the frequency? We weren't thinking frequency or anything like that. We were just like, okay, the Lord said do this, and so we did that. But do you think that some of that could possibly be like when we would pray or lay hands on someone and the Lord would show us what to do, that that's kind of on the physical realm? Maybe that's part of what was happening, is that, you know, the frequencies were changing or something. And is there still room for that type or function of healing as
Yes.
opposed to, you know,
Yes, 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 yes.
okay,
So one of the things I want to say is, you know, sometimes we think that was the old way. Let me tell you something. The old way was still God's way. Okay. So what we are often programmed to, how we're programmed to work is, I'm doing this now. I used to do this, but now I'm doing this. And what I've learned is everything that the Father is teaching us, it's not or. Okay. So I love to pray for people. Okay. The problem is when I say to people, can I pray for you? Not everybody is up for it. Okay. So however, I know if I can get my hands on you, something's going to happen. Okay. Because whether you know it or not, I am going to pray. And I'm going to engage with heaven for whatever your body needs right now. I just need your permission to be able to get my hands on you. So when we did out on the street stuff, you know, we saw people getting healed all the time. I love that thing of Smith Wigglesworth, you know, don't tell me God doesn't heal till you've prayed for 100 people. And in fact, you know, when he had us setting up the dead raising team, I used that same thing. You know, don't tell me God doesn't raise the dead till you've prayed for 100 people. It's not so easy to get your hands on dead bodies to pray as it is to get your hands on people on the streets. But, you know, even easier is it when you're in an environment that we've got going here, which is a health center. So people come in and you talk to them about frequency and you talk to them about energy, and they are totally engaged. And then, you know, you say, okay, I want to just, is it okay as part of this process if I touch you, if I release some, and, you know, the Holy Spirit will show you what to do. But actually, basically, the heart of Jesus is to see everybody healed and restored and well. So, you know, in the church, do the healing services. On the streets, do whatever it takes to get your hands on somebody, to release his presence, to release his healing power. And use whatever terminology, you know, whether you want to tell them that, you know, there's a healing anointing happening right now, and so I'm going to put my hands on you and something's going to change, or, you know, I am a healer and I carry energy in my hand, can I put whatever it takes, and the Father will give you the words to say, that we can actually just get a mobilization of people well outside of the chemical dependence that we have been programmed to believe in. Does that make sense, Tony?
yeah, it does. I was just struggling kind of with, you know, because everything about our church like changed a little over 2 years ago, you know, because we started trying to do it less as like the church and, you know, like bringing it more into this, you know. And so that was one of the things that I just personally kind of struggled with, you know, that it was like, okay, I need to like step back in a way. But I like what you said, you know, that it doesn't have to be or, it can be and. So
Yes. Okay. So the one thing, I think the one way in which we're trying to move forward in this new, which is different to the old, is the old relied on the pastor or the man at the front. And in the new, what we're trying to do is we're trying to make it accessible to all. Okay. So if you use that as a model, you know, I mean, So, you know, the prophetic, for instance, I use the prophetic all the time. I don't, because actually I can see things. The Father shows me things with clients who walk through the door. You know, I was telling the story about the pendulum man, you know, and the Father told me, actually, what you need is a spleen cleanse. And so I said to him, listen, your main problem is your spleen. And he didn't want to know anything about that. He came back about a month later. He said, I've been to my dowser. He's dowsed me and he's found all these parasites and they live in the spleen. Now suddenly he wanted to take my advice, you know. Well, I could have already told him that because I saw it in the spirit realm. But I didn't say, thus saith the Lord, you know. But what it is doing, I mean, I had somebody who knows this guy say to me, I cannot believe how you have this man eating out the palm of your hand. He is one of the most spiritually dangerous people in the town, you know. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just modeling a different way for him. And he's broken and he's hurting. And in fact, when I had him on the machine last time, I opened up an encounter for him and he was blown away, you know. Now, he only allowed that to happen because I built relationship with him, and I'm building relationship using terminology and a language, and I'm bringing in the revelation of heaven without trying to rub his nose in it, to a place where he actually said to me, you are so spiritually attuned, I will listen to anything you say to me, you know. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to just give people access where people can't hear God's voice. There's no point in saying, I'm not going to, you know, I don't want to be the person who is going to bring you anything, because you have to learn to hear his voice. Once upon a time, we all had to learn how to transition from that place of not being able to hear his voice to being able to hear his voice. And the Father used those gracious people who allowed us to press in on them for the revelation of heaven that we were so hungry for that we couldn't get ourselves. So the main thing is, you know, if I am going to be this person that's the middleman for now, know that I'm not setting myself up as this person. And what I'm really wanting to do is get you to a place where you can access all this stuff yourself. Okay, Mary, you had your hand up. Daniel, I'll come back to you.
Hi, Lindy.
Hi.
Thank you so much for all what you have said. And I am just so thrilled and happy, and, you know, to hear all that you unpacked today, because I've been also on this journey of frequency, you know, this and that, you know, and all the equipment that you have mentioned. So God has just put me in the this journey to keep trying it, because something happened in my body. So through that, it's been teaching me. I've never even heard about muscle testing. I didn't know what it is. So I started, the Holy Spirit started speaking to me. So I just speak something and I ask question, and it will answer me just like that, straight up like that. So I started to just, you know, use things, and not on my own, but incorporating the Holy Spirit with what I do, even with essential oil. You know, during the pandemic, there was a day my throat was just raw, like a bad meat. I look at it, I said, what, Holy Spirit, what is this? COVID is not coming into my house. So, and he asked me, you know, to select some oil. So I did 3. Then he just said to me, use thyme oil. I've never used thyme oil before, and I use a dropper. I drop it in there, and I tell you, within 2 hours, that rawness was gone like that. And I was saying, wow. So that really encourages me so much to work with the Holy Spirit in this healing thing. And I'm so much excited. I just can't wait to start. I'm just excited. I have my Spooky that I bought a year ago. I was so afraid to use it. I told Mike, but right now it's taught me how to do it. And I will ask the presets, should I ask this one? He say yes. If no, no. So that's the way I keep asking. And it's a journey that you just have to walk with him. And when people come, You know, like one man that came to me, he said he had hips pain. I said, I don't know what to do. What am I going to do with his hip? I don't know what to say to him. He kept ringing me and coming here without even an appointment. I said, Father, what do I do? I don't know, until he gave me the same thing. Then I started to take attention and I said, okay. So when you mentioned about tuning fork, I'm just so thrilled. I've never used tuning fork. I don't know nothing about it, but I'm going to ask the Holy Spirit about it and where it's leading me. I'm going to contact you later anyway to join your your training, because I really need that. So I'm so grateful that, you know, God has used you so much, you know, and the church, just like what you just said, introducing it, because some people still have the mindset that when you use all these things, it's not from God, you know, because there was a friend who has got kidney and liver problems. So I was trying to tell her, oh, she was so offended. Oh, Mary, it's prayer I need. Don't tell me about that. I don't want to know. I don't want to. I say, okay, you know. So I just left her, and she doesn't even talk to me again because of that, because I'm not going through God. And I was like, God created all these things for our benefit, and he's still introducing more and more is coming, releasing. So I'm just so grateful for this time, because I'm into wellness, and what God has given to me is for other people. So I'm so excited to learn and to work with the Holy Spirit. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you, Mary. Mary, can I just tell you, if you're going to get a tuning fork, get one with the weights on the end, because when you use the one on the weights and you put it on your body, it's much more effective. So rather than trying other things first, go with the one that's got the weighted end.
Yeah.
Okay, Kathy, you're next. Daniel, you're next after Kathy.
So the tuning fork you just held up, Lindy, did that have a crystal on the end, or it's just a something?
If I could get them in this country with crystals, I would. You guys have the ability to buy, and you can get a set of crystals that you actually just clip onto the bottom. It's not easy for us to get them here. So my plan was, when I next travel to the States, I was going to get some tuning forks with, or just, you know, even just get the crystal attachments that you can plug onto the bottom, because, oh my goodness, that would be amazing. But this just has a round knob on the bottom.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I don't have a knob like that. My find that's hard to hold. Can I do a little promotion of you for people that okay.
Sure.
I'm gonna put it in the chat for anybody that's interested. This is the link to Lindy's website around more in-depth training for healing and restoration. And I have been a part of this community now for about a year and a half. So if you are interested in getting more information around Lindy's experience, just to supplement what you're learning on your own, this is a wonderful place to get more information. But I have there's a warning. We cannot give away what we don't carry. So a large portion of what is in this platform is about you doing the self-care that she's talking about addressing your healing. And it is as we walk out our own healing in our lives that energy field that Lindy's talking about, it expands, so that it's not going to be about the words we use or the things that we do. It's going to, over time, become more and more a presence of who we are because of the presence that we carry. So for anyone that wants, I'm sorry, I just saw that you can't hear me. If anyone wants more information around what Lindy does and what she has to share, that's a great place to start. It's very inexpensive. In US dollars, it's around $10 a month. So it's quite affordable for people if you want more information.
Thanks, Kathy. Okay, so
Hi, Lindy. We need to leave it there because
we have
we've got
to-
another session starting in 5 minutes.
okay.
So
I will-
let's thanks for sharing. Awesome.
I'll take questions later in the evening session as well.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so let's leave it there and we'll pick it up now again in 6 minutes. So great.